Raptors fans were certainly expecting an interesting season in 2024-2025, but after we heard what the players and personnel said at Media Day, it's about to become a whole lot more compelling. Let's get into it. Welcome back to Amateur Sports, the YouTube channel completely dedicated to Toronto Raptors content. Today we're going through the biggest takeaways that we got from Media Day, starting off with, first of all, the term rebuild. The term rebuild was thrown around quite a lot over the course of Media Day. It was thrown around a little bit here and there over the course of the offseason. Most notably, there was a time Darko Rajakovic really let the cat out of the bag as far as a rebuild is concerned and said that this is the first year of the rebuild for the team. And it was really nice to see that the team, the people involved with trying to make the team better, trying to make the team win, were under the impression and had the complete understanding that this was not going to be a winning year. We're not going all out to try and win games at the sacrifice of individual growth and individual development within the players in the team, and also a little bit with the coaching of the team as well. A relatively inexperienced staff overall. But again, it was very refreshing to see that that was going to be the approach over the course of the season. And the way it was brought up in Media Day, it just reaffirmed that statement. Darko Rajakovic was talking about rebuild. Masai Ujiri was talking a ton about the rebuild and the possibilities that came with it for the Raptors this season. When Masai himself was asked about what adjective he would use to describe this season, he flat out said, rebuilding. We've said that loud and clear. So again, it's just good to see that that is the perspective going into this season, but perhaps some problems could start to arise when it comes to how the players feel about that. People have always talked about the approach that players have to rebuilding, and my take on it is always going to be the same. Organizations rebuild. Perhaps coaches to a certain extent rebuild because they want to get the right players in for development purposes, but I'll tell you who doesn't rebuild. Players do not rebuild. Players do not tank. So when a front office is looking to tank, go for a better draft pick, perhaps they're in the coach's ear a little bit as far as playtime is concerned, just for the sake of getting the right players in for development. I'm not saying that the coaches are out there throwing games on purpose, but players absolutely have no say whatsoever in tanking. Players have no say whatsoever in terms of rebuilding. When the players are out there on the floor, they are there to play their best and win basketball games. End of story. When Scottie Barnes is out there, he is there to win games. So perhaps sometimes the coaches or the front office feel best if, hey, maybe he doesn't play some games that he could be playing if he was healthy enough to play. Maybe we sit him out for some games here and there. That's the approach that you can take with players. But when players are out there on the floor, they are absolutely there to win games. And, going into a season, look, these guys are competitive. They are in the NBA. They're at the pinnacle of the sport of basketball. They want to go out there and do their best. They want to go out there and win games, and they want to go out there and play in the biggest games and get to the playoffs. That could be a little bit counterintuitive to what the front office is thinking, perhaps what the coaches are thinking going into this season. Scottie Barnes specifically mentioned over the course of Media Day that he has really no interest in talking about rebuilding when he was on the podium well after Masai Ujiri and Darko Rajakovic specifically were talking about doing just that. So perhaps, again, could some issues arise there? I think there was a really good question that came in that tried to put this to bed, and Masai had a fantastic answer about it. When Masai Ujiri talked about players not wanting to rebuild, he said, I don't want to hear them talking about rebuilding. That's me. They should be talking about winning and competing. That's where you want their mindset to be. Let us think about managing the team. Competing is where you want them to be. And I think that it was just such the perfect answer and the perfect approach going into the season. And the Raptors certainly will not start the year with the intentions of tanking. Look, over the course of this season, that is absolutely something that could come into play, and definitely something that is on the mind of, when you look at the sports betting numbers suggesting that the Toronto Raptors win total is right around 29.5, 30.5. We know that the team is good enough to win more than that, but it's a question about if the team is going to want to win more than that when it comes to the end of the season. Looking at a pretty good draft class, looking at the potential of getting Cooper Flagg if you can land the first overall pick at the lottery. The Raptors will worry about this later. Perhaps it's just on the mind of the front office right now, but what's great about this approach is that we're going to be going into this season with a team that is trying to win as many games as possible and just seeing what happens. Darko is going to put the players in place he feels as though puts the team in the best position to succeed. And the players themselves, like I said, they are going out there to win. They are going out there to compete. Going into a season with the negative mindset that it's going to be another season where you're focused on the draft lottery. That's not going to do the players any favors. So let's go out and try and win games. Let's see what this team can do. And hey, if we get to January, we get to February, this team is on a 40-plus win pace. They're firmly in the play-in tournament picture because the East may just be really bad this season. The Raptors could be better than expected this season. I don't put it beyond this team to creep into the low 40s for wins this season. So we're on pace for that. Let the team go do their thing. They're clearly getting better. They're clearly developing. And clearly, if the team is winning that many games, they are building chemistry. And that's something that we really want to see this season. Something Scottie Barnes specifically mentioned at the media day when he said, just trying to bring these guys together. It all started this summer of building this chemistry. So if that chemistry is continuing to build throughout the season, why not let them go? Why not go see if they can make the playoffs? But on the other hand, there has to be a recognition from a player perspective that if the team is on a 35-win pace, not really in the play-in tournament picture, and if they are, they're kind of on the outskirts of it, perhaps it is best for the organization to take a step back. Maybe look at that draft a little bit more. So it's going to be compelling to see just how good this team can be because they are going to have the complete reins to go do whatever they want on the floor at the start of the year to try and win as many games as possible. The organization will take care of those decisions as far as rebuilding, as far as tanking when we get to that point. But as a Raptors fan, it's going to be exciting to see how far this team can go at the start of the season with the mindset and with the understanding that, okay, if things are going very well on the floor, great. Let's try to make the playoffs. If things are not going that well, we have the fallback. We have that sort of safety net of the rebuild in the minds that it's okay if we're not winning games. It's okay if we're not winning games as long as things are growing, things are developing, things are getting better. Because for a lot of last season, it felt like the Raptors were losing a bunch of games and they had no direction and they were going nowhere. It seems like this year there's a better direction set and the team is much better equipped to have a more successful year than last year. Whether it means more wins, whether it means less wins, I don't think it really matters for the win-loss as long as things are progressing in the right direction for the long term. That's going to come from development. That's going to come through this rebuild phase here. And again, as much as players want to win, there's also the understanding from the older guys like Jakob Poeltl. By the way, still isn't that old, but Jakob Poeltl himself said very bluntly, this team's not going out to win a championship. In fact, it would be bad for this team to go and try to win a championship this season because it would be sacrificial to the development. You could load up on the minutes of your top guys for sure, but would you want to do that? Maybe get a few more wins here and there at the sacrifice of the play time and the development reps for your younger guys. This team's not really good enough to win a championship, so it's a little bit counterintuitive to really try and push for that and risk getting not as much development out of the younger guys within the team. So for this rebuild to work, again, everybody's got to be bought in on what the situation is for the team, and I think that's there. Number two, especially to improve on last season, there's got to be some sort of an improvement on defense, and I really like that one of the things that was brought up quite a bit, especially for Darko Rajakovic, was improving that defense, which was really quite abysmal last season. The defensive struggles were such a point of emphasis and something that the Raptors want to work on this season that Masai Ujiri had this to say. It's not something we're proud of last year. It's going to come down to effort. Some of the effort we make. Darko has used this as a point of emphasis this summer. We have to take responsibility on the type of guys we bring into the program. So the Raptors have done that with players like Jamal Shed, players like Jonathan Mobo, maybe a little bit on Bruno Fernando, but I think they should have done a bit more in terms of rim protection, but at least there was a focus to make the defense better. I think that's just going to facilitate a lot of the stuff on the other end of the floor for the guys to just work on and have it come a little bit easier to them. Because when you get into a better state defensively, you get into better possessions on offense, and you're just not leaking buckets constantly trying to play catch up all the time. Honestly, the defense last year, they just could not get stopped a lot of the time, which led to the abysmal record that they had. And it led to them tanking in the first place because they just could not get enough wins on the board because they were leaking way too many points on that end of the floor. So overall, the big takeaway is the team is bought in on rebuilding. However, the players, even though there is an understanding of that, they're here to win games to start the season. I think that makes for a pretty exciting season, all things considered, for the Raptors, even despite the understanding from the fan base that yes, there is a rebuild, yes, there's a possibility of a tank. We can be excited and rest assured that this team is going to be grinding out the gate providing exciting basketball for us to see. So what do you make of what you saw from Media Day and heard from Media Day? Give me all of your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. That's all for me for today. Drop a like if you enjoyed, subscribe for more Raptors content, and I'll see you again next time for another video.